A very good afternoon to everyone present in today's workshop. This is the first of the 5-part series of ADManager Plus workshop series conducted by ManageEngine. And our topic today is going to be on user provisioning through template and CSV. My name is Sid, and our agenda in ADManager Plus over here is to ensure that using ADManager Plus, you will be able to ease the burden of your Active Directory tasks. With that said, these are the tasks that we would be focusing on today. We're going to learn how to create user accounts, single and multiple, with just minimal attributes. It could be given by your HR or by a team lead, and how exactly are we going to use that information to create accounts and just using a simple CSV file. We're also going to learn how to ensure that certain attributes can be made as mandatory, that is right, and without extending the need uh, of your Active Directory schema. And the third part over here is that we're going to learn how you can provision Active Directory, Exchange, Office 365 and Link in a single window. So you don't have to get into multiple servers to associate all these accounts. Just one simple interface. And we're also going to learn how you can standardize the naming formats. For instance, you need to ensure that the user should have the same naming format. First name dot last name. It could be on the email, or it could even be on the SAM account name or on the user principal name. It has to be in the right format. So we're going to learn how exactly that can be kept in a most uniform fashion without disturbing any other attributes. Last but not least, we are also going to learn how to handle duplication when creating accounts. A lot of time you might have chances that there is a John Smith coming in today, and you might have to create another John Smith in the upcoming days too. So two accounts, and there could be a conflict. And how exactly are we going to resolve that conflict is what we would be covering up today. So with that said, let me now take you to the workshop series by ManageEngine. And for those who do not have a test installation, we've got one covered for you, and it's being hosted in our network. So you just need to access the admp.cloudapp.net, and I am going to forward that information to you shortly through chat. Alright, so there you go. So once again, it is going to be admp.cloudapp.net, and the username is going to be ADMP, and the password is going to be workshop W capitalized, and the logon to is going to be ADManager Plus authentication. Once again, it is going to be the username as ADMP. The password has been set as workshop W capitalized, and the logon to is going to be ADManager Plus authentication. With that said, let me now log in into ADManager, and the best part over here is that the moment you log into the software, it is going to present you its dashboard view. So you've got a quick glance to find out all the Active Directory objects in your domain, starting with the users, inactive users, computers, workstations, and much more. So there you go, that's going to be a quick glance of my domain over here, and there are other tabs which would perform the associated functions. For example, the AD management over here is to focus on managing all your security objects, users, computers, files and folders, you name it, we've got that covered for you. And then we have the reporting section. So this is going to give you complete detailed information on any security object, be it permissions, be it group membership, or just simple fields that you need to find out for your user accounts. Now, ADManager Plus is also a delegating software as well, so you can delegate and customize your own roles and have it associated for your helpdesk technicians. And we also have the workflow and automation too. So since this is going to be the first workshop, I'm just going to give you a clear picture on what exactly ADManager Plus is for those who are new to us. The workflow is more of a business level design which will allow you to perform tasks based on a execution standard. So you can have a requestor who can raise a ticket, followed by the approver who's going to approve it, check out the pros and cons, and then finally the executor, who can execute the ticket over here. And we also have the automation category where you can automate multiple tasks. It could be user provisioning, cleaning up your AD, or modifying user attributes. We have that covered for you in the automation tab. Now, our core topic, like I had said, is going to be on user provisioning, and it's going to be strictly based on template and a CSV file. So I'm going to show you a quick difference on how easy it is to create a user when you compare this with your native Active Directory. So now, for example, if I have to go to native AD over here, I would probably get into ADUC, create the account, first name, last name, and then the fields will be populated. And I input the password and I would just click on create. But hey, the task is not over. I will now have to create the Exchange task. I'll have to associate that account with Office 365 if required. I'll have to also create the link and other various attributes. It could be moving the user to a different OU, or changing the group membership. There is going to be a task which is not easy at all. Now, if it's for a single user, all right, I can spend maybe like 5 or 6 minutes. But what about 200 accounts or maybe 100 accounts? You might have to create contracts, or contractors in your organization, or certain temporary users. So it is going to be a humongous task. And with ADManager, how exactly are we going to ease that process? So let's start something quick over here. I have now entered create single user. So what am I going to do? Let's say being a technically naive user or just an HR, who's just going to create accounts. That is right. You can also use this option very cleverly to delegate these tasks to your HR as well. So the IT team does not need to create accounts anymore. I'm just going to show you how easy and simple it is to create an account. All right. So me being an HR, I'm going to input the first name, and then I am going to put in the last name over here. And in a single click, you can find out logon name, the SAM account name, full name, etc. They are being populated. So I can go and choose in which OU the user has to be created in. That's number one for you. And at the same time, when I get into the account tab, I've got multiple options over here. So for instance, I can define the password profile. Now AD itself, Microsoft does not give you the option to generate a random password, but hey, we do it over here. And if you click on the link configure password complexity, it is going to give you the option on how exactly you can define what sort of password should be and how complex you can set the password over here. So you can provide the minimum length, maximum length, and other characters too. Now since I've come to this page, I'm also going to show you how you can set a naming format as well. Now a lot of times, once you're done creating accounts, you may have to go back to AD to redefine the naming format itself. It could be first initial last name or first name dot last name. Well, on the left hand side, I've got something called as naming formats. And over here, I will be able to choose or define the naming format for my business organization. So for instance, if I just get into add new format over here, I'm going to name this format as workshop. And let's say it's going to just be the first character of the first name. And we're going to go with the last name over here. And we'll have this saved. So this is going to be the naming format, just the first initial last name. Alright, so with that said, let me go quickly back into AD management. And now let's go ahead and create a single user. So as I was creating Steve, I'm so sorry in case the topic got deviated, but hey, we'd learned how to define the password complexity and the naming formats too. So alright, I'm going to go with Steve, and then I'm going to go with the last name as Smith. And there you go. So once the fields have been auto-populated, I will now get into the account tab, and I can either choose a random password, or I can simply type in a password over here. And ADManager Plus will also allow you to leave the password blank, or you can also use the same as usual logon name, followed by the user must change password at the next logon. So most of you would be curious to find out, what is this icon exactly? Well, you guessed it right. This is going to be the Office 365 account over here. So if you enable a check over here, all these attributes which have been associated with the Office 365, they will be synchronized when you create the Office 365 account. Two other things to be noticed in this tab is that you also have the option to define the group membership right from the beginning itself, which means you don't have to modify the account later. I can choose in multiple groups over here, and I can also input the home folder path, be the local or the network. And if it's going to be a contractor, it is always important to define the account expiry. Most of us do, and so would we. So we are getting into to choose the account expiry for this account over here, and we're also ensuring that the user cannot change his password too. And you can also define the logon hours for this contractor too. For Steve, I am going to ensure he should not be able to log in on Sunday over here. Sunday maybe from possibly from 1 to 10. So I can define the logon hours for this account over here. And another quick thing over here is that you can also define the contact attributes too, which means the title, it's going to be contractor. And then I can put in the department, the company, the manager for this contract employee, and of course the telephone and the address fields too. The best part over here is that I was discussing on a 360-degree user provisioning, which means Exchange, Terminal, Link, Office 365, you name it, we've got that covered for you. So if it's going to be in terms of Exchange, I can choose a mailbox enabled user, and all I'll have to do is just input the mail server and store, and there you go. I can also ensure that the option to automatically update email address is being checked, or I can have it unchecked and just simply click on add and provide the naming formats, the formats for the email address over here. Another quick easy task. And of course you also have the option to define the delivery restrictions and options, the exchange policies too, as in the retention policy and the active sync policy, the unified message policy settings, and much more. So everything in one single window. And of course you can also define the terminal properties too, the OCS and links. So if you've got a live communication server or the Office communication servers over here, you can define the SIP URI format. Or if you've got link, you can also define the same for Skype for Business by defining the SIP URI format, or the telephonic conference details, or the archiving policy details, and much more. So I don't have a link, I'm just going to go with no communication server. And in case if you have extended your schemas, if you have added a few more attributes by extending the schema, you can simply add those attributes right over here and manage them when creating this account. Last but not least, Office 365. So yes, I have the option to choose the licensing details too. If I'm going to choose the option create an Office 365, I will also have the option to define what licenses should be associated when creating this account. With that said, all I'm going to do is just simply click on create, and it will just take a few seconds for this account to be created. That's right, just a few seconds. You've managed to create your user with Exchange, Link, your custom attributes, and Office 365 all in a single window. So this is user provisioning at its best. So with that said, what is going to be our core topics from here? So we're going to learn how you will be able to create multiple accounts in this case. Now what I've just shown you is just creating a single account and by associating the other properties like Exchange and Link. Now of course, being admins and HRs, you will be given responsibility to create multiple accounts, and how exactly are we going to deal with that? Now when I talk about multiple accounts, you might have probably think, hey, I can do it by using a PowerShell script or maybe using a VB script. Now, for those who don't like scripting, this is something I just found on the internet, and hey, this is quite confusing to me because I don't go with scripts over here, and I need an easier way to ease out my task over here. Well, that's the whole point. We are going to ease your task. We're not going to use these scripts over here for sure, to create multiple accounts. Instead, I'm going to show you something quite easy. So what I'm going to do is, let me delete the script over here and just input certain Ldap headers. Alright, so you might have a question, hey, what are those headers exactly and what are those fields? So what I will do is, I'm going to have this minimized and I'm going to click on the help link of ADManager. This is another extensive solution, to use ADManager Plus even more effectively. So we're going to go with user management in the index, create users, and we're going to create bulk users, and it's going to be using a CSV file. And there you go. So the list of Ldap attributes. Now Microsoft itself, has specified certain Ldap attributes which we can use to create accounts. For instance, first name is nothing but given name. The middle name or initials can be set as initials. The last name or the surname as SN. And all the other details, have been specified based on an Ldap header over here. So in Ldap format. These, of course, are case sensitive. So with that said, back to my VBS file, which I've just cleared the content. So the given name is going to be the first name over here. SN was going to be my last name, and then I've got the password field over here. So here's going to be my entries over here. I'm going to create Steve Rogers, and I have input the password over here. I'm going to have this saved, and instead of any other format, it has to be in a CSV format, which means a comma separated value. So I'm going to save this right now, and there you go. So it just has the given name, the surname, the password. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to make a mistake over here. I'm going to add another comma, and I will have this saved. Now what I will do is get into create users right now. And now what I will do is, I'm going to choose the CSV file which we just created and click on OK. Now here's an interesting thing. When you go with these VB files or the PowerShell files, once you're done with the format and you execute it, it is only then it's going to show the error. But ADManager Plus is smarter. When I mean smart, there you go. It shows that, hey, an empty header is being detected. So which means I've made a mistake in my CSV files. I'm going to go back, and which means that I've just made another comma. So I could probably input another field, or I could just leave blank by removing the comma. I'll have this saved again. Go ahead and choose the file, and I will now click on OK. So ADManager Plus will validate the format of the CSV file, and depending on the values that you have provided, it's going to pull up the information. So there you go. Within a few seconds, I'm going to find out, hey, so which means my CSV file is completely right. So it's given the first name, last name, etc. Alright, perfectly fine. With that said, all I'm going to do is just click on next, and I will click on create users, and in a few seconds I'll have the user account created. Now this is just for one, so hardly, what about say 5 seconds or less, I've got the user with exchange, link, etc. everything within a matter of just a few seconds over here. You're talking about 100,000, you name the number, we'll just do it within a limited time. So which means I can add up multiple accounts over here. It could be another account over here, and I just have to input the password. So there you go. I can keep adding multiple entries over here, and once again the user creation is quite simple. So we've learned how to create users through a single and even through a CSV file. So our next topic is going to be on how exactly are we going to build up our user creation template. So when I go with the user creation template, the first question would come to your mind. So How exactly are we going to do it? Are we going to do it based on a OU or based on department? Well, the answer lies within your business organization. You might have a need to create users based on a specific department, or you might have a need, to create accounts based on department and on a geographical location too. So the same applies over here as well. So I'm going to click on create new template, and let's say I'm going to keep this template named as a service desk template over here, which means the users over here are going to be a part of my service desk team. So I'll have this named as service desk. Service desk accounts will be the description, and there you go. So remember, we had learned how to create our own naming format. So if I click on this option, it's going to take me back to the admin tab. So the format what I had created initially, workshop, so that's going to be the first initial and the last name. Good. So we have the content right over here, and then I'm going to choose that these service desk accounts should be created in the UK region or the USA region. I'm going to choose USA over here and click on OK. So there you go. I've chosen the logon naming format over here, and for the Samoka name I could probably choose the same format, first initial last name. Full name is absolutely fine. So which means my task over here, so there you go, I've input the first and last name over here, and I'm now going to, okay, I'm sorry, this is going to be my template, so which means I am just going to leave these fields blank, and I'm just going to define the naming formats over here. So with that said, let me now get into the account tab over here, and over here I can define what group membership should be defined for the service desk accounts over here. So since being in service desk, I could probably choose account operators, I can choose domain admins if required, and a few other groups over here. So I think this should be done, and I can also define the password profile. So since they're going to be service desk accounts, I'm going to make sure that password will never expire, or should be a bad idea. So what I'll do is they cannot change their password maybe, and I can go ahead and define the password profile. So either you can choose a random password or simply go ahead and type in the password, and you can also define the home folder path too. So when we go back to contact, there you go, I can define the title department too. So it's going to be a service desk user, and the department would be IT. And you can specify the company, the manager field for all these service desk users over here. So you just have to click on the pencil icon over here, and there you go, I can set a manager too. Now most of would be having a question that, hey, so this is going to maybe might take a few seconds. Is there an easier way to reduce the seconds over here? Which means, is there a way we can reduce the field population over here? Now you guessed it right. So we do have an option called copy user attributes. I don't have to get into each and every tab to input all these values, provided you're trying to create something new. But what about the existing users over here? You might have already an existing user for service desk or for the finance or for the accounts. So all I'll have to do is click on copy user attributes on the top right, and this is going to give me a list of accounts of course in your AD, and I just have to choose the user, and I can define what attributes of that account should be populated in my user creation template. So which means this is going to be an admin IT, so I could probably choose admin IT over here, and choosing this banner like symbol, if I click on this, it's going to show me another pop-up where I can define what attributes should be copied in this template. So I can define in terms of general, the description, office, etc. Alright, if I go back to account, the group membership, that's brilliant, the basic UAC options, as in the password and the account properties over here. So hey, I've got everything right over here itself, so I don't have to manually type in all the information. Instead, I just have to click on copy user attributes and probably choose one of the accounts which is the right format. So that's one of the options to ease your burden. Again, this is one hidden feature which you can take maximum advantage of. So there you go, I've defined the contact, and yes, Just like what we created in a single account, I can also define the exchange, link, and other properties too. So which means once I have this template saved, so I've just covered up half of what we learned through the user creation template. There are a few more features what we would be exploring, and I'm sure that's going to keep you even more excited. So I'll go back to AD management over here, and of course, so being an HR, let's say you decide to delegate this software to your HRs. You're not going to create users anymore. You or the HR, will just have to get them to create single user. And the next task, what they need to do is just choose template. So this was going to be a service desk. There you go. I click on service desk over here. And my next course of action is to type in the first name, and there you go. I just have to click on well, I don't have to do that because if you notice, everything is being populated. So based on the template what you have decided, it has taken the right format, which was first initial last name, and the other attributes, as in the container in which the user has to be created. So if I click on the account tab, it's going to populate with the group membership and other password and account properties. Hey, so there you go. The group membership is also being populated. I'm just doing this for a check. So the password profile, the account properties. If I go back to contact, it has been defined, the title, department, etc., and so on with the other tabs. So which means being an HR, just the first name and the last name, and there you go. You will just have to click on create. So in a few seconds, all it takes is just to input the first and last name, click on create, and there you go. User account is being created. So in a few seconds again. So this is the most exciting part when it comes to AD Manager, user provisioning at its best. Now you might have certain questions. Hey, you did discuss about setting up certain fields as mandatory. What about that? So, and what about avoiding duplication? So this is going to be our second series. I mean the second part in the user creation template. So we've learned how easy it is to manage these user creation templates. So let's do a bit of tweaking over here. So I'll go back to the user creation templates right now. And my template was service desk, so I can either have it searched. So since you might be creating a lot of templates based on departments or based on geographical locations, you could either have it searched. So yes, it was going to be service desk, and there you go. I've searched for it. I'm going to click on my template. So I am going to choose the option called enable drag and drop. So that's going to be in the top right corner. So my first task, what in case if I need to ensure that my HRs keep missing the employee ID field. I'm sure a lot of us would keep missing out attributes every now and then. So hey, not to worry, ADManager Plus is to rescue. So for instance, employee ID, I don't want to miss that. So I'm going to click on edit. I just have to hover the mouse towards the field, click on edit, and there you go. So under the options, you've got the option called as mandatory. So I'll have it clicked, click on done. And let's say I need to ensure that the HR who's going to fill in should be filling it in the right format, or anybody over there. So I will click on edit again. I'm going to put in a help card stating that this is how my employee ID should be looking into. And I'll have this saved. So there you go. And let's say for instance you don't want let's say you don't have a link environment. So what I can do is I can simply remove the entire tab itself, or I can even remove the terminal tab since it's not going to be of much it might not be of much use to me. I can even have that removed too. Or let's say there are a few fields which I would like to get rid of. For example, the web page over here, I am just going to click on delete. So there you go. I will just click on OK. And since this is going to be a service desk, template over here, I need to ensure that certain attributes, should have the value, but it should be passed on silently. So I need to ensure that it should not be modified at all. So it has to be something constant. So what I can do is I could probably get into description. I can, provide, make it silently active. So there you go. And I will now click on, and yes, before that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how you can prevent duplication. So the fields, what we would need to worry about would always be the naming format in terms of the logon name, your SAM account, and the user principal name. So let me hover my mouse towards logon name over here, click on edit, and here you go. You've got the option called as prevent duplication. Just simply check against this option and choose domain or forest depending on how your environment is. I'm going to choose forest probably over here. And best thing, you can either apply a different naming format, that's number one. So I've just shown you how exactly you can create naming format. So you can put in any of the naming format over here, that's one for you. Or if you don't wish to choose another naming format, but instead if you would like to append, a different standard, like instead of John Smith, there's already John Smith. When you create another John Smith, it could be John Smith 2. So I can choose automatically append number from 2 over here, or I can just change it again. Or simply do not create user. I can choose any of these three options. For now, let me just go with automatically append the number from 2, and I'm clicking on done. And I will also apply the same for the SAM account name too. There you go. So I have now decided, in case if there is, a sense of duplication, it has to append by a number 2 and so on. So there you go. I've ensured that I can set a field as mandatory, and I can also define, in case if I find that that attribute, should not be modified, but it has to be passed on to AD, I can do that in the template itself. And I've also learned, how I can, play if at all ADManager Plus will sense duplication, what needs to be done. So you've got a proactive way to manage that. So let me click on disable drag and drop, and for the silently active field, I'm going to put service desk. So there you go. So I have now, settled with my template over here. It looks pretty clean to me, and let me now have this saved. So which means your task is to either create a single account, which I just shown you a few seconds before. Let's start creating accounts in bulk. So let me go back to my CSV file, and I will probably go with a few accounts. Let's say there's a John Smith or a John Rogers. And you might have a question, hey, I might create multiple accounts, but they would be based on multiple templates. How do you think, would be an easier task to do this? Once again, the question would be, how exactly are you going to add, is there a way, you can add multiple templates in a CSV file? Yes, ADManager Plus can also do that for you. So let's say you have to create a CSV file. So you might have a user from the accounts department, you might have to create an account from the finance department and so on. The easiest task, what I can suggest over here, is to add another field called template name. So which means could be on the accounts, and I can create another from the service desk. So you see, I can show up, how exactly I can, create these accounts, and I just have to add another field over here. So I'll just go with one of the same template over here for now. Go with accounts right now. Now I'll probably go with service desk because that's the one, we are familiar with. And if you had noticed, I did ensure that the service desk has the employee ID field as set to be as mandatory. So I'm going to add the employee ID field too. And in case if I don't add the employee ID field over here, it is going to throw me an error. Hey, the employee ID field is mandatory. So there you go. I'm going to add the employee ID field. So I think my CSV file is completely set. In case if I have a mistake, it's going to throw me out an error. So quite easy to understand that. So I'll have this saved, go back to AD management, and our next course of action is to create users in bulk. We will choose that, and we're going to import the CSV file, and we are also going to choose our template, which was service desk. But again, not necessary, since you've already mentioned, uh, the service desk template in the CSV file itself. So again, you could probably just ignore it and click on OK. So depending on the values, on the service desk plus template, those values, will be populated right in this file. So you could see in this page that the user principal name, this has already been defined in the template over here, and all the other attributes as in the group membership. You could see the domain admins, the account operators, etc. So there you go. The employee field is also being set, so no errors. This CSV file is completely correct. So I've got two accounts. Remember, you might have a CSV file which can contain multiple entries, and there is quite a possibility that you might have a user, who might have, you might have multiple users of the same name. So in my instance, it's going to be John Rogers. All right, let's create accounts over here. And within a few seconds over here, I've got two accounts, who are filled up with exchange, link, etc. There you go. J Rogers and J Rogers 2. So I can ensure that I can choose a different naming format. It could be John Rogers, J.O. Rogers, that could be one, or J Rogers 3 as per my requirement over here. So there you go. It's a simple way to create multiple accounts in one single go. So just to do a quick recap, what we had performed in today's workshop is that we had learned, how you can create accounts in bulk, using a simple CSV file. We'd also learned how you can define the OU and group membership through a template. And yes, through Ldap Attributes, you can also define that in a CSV file too. And how exactly you can ensure to create the AD attributes, the Exchange Office 365 link in a one single interface, just in a one single window. And we also learned how you can define a naming format and ensure the uniformity stays across for all the users. We also learned how to make an attribute mandatory without the need to extend your schema. Brilliant. And we also learned how you can detect and also handle duplication when you're creating accounts. With that said, we have covered the topics in today's session. We would love to hear your feedback for this workshop, because that would help us improve in the upcoming versions, again, in the upcoming workshop series by ManageEngine. And I hope this session had been informative, and I'm glad, if this could be really helpful to you. This is once again Sid signing off, and thank you so much again for being an amazing audience. Have a great day.